I think this experience is a little bit like a sci-fi movie or a sci-fi book.
Paul and Cheryl Molesky were among many Americans quarantined on the Diamond Princess cruise ship, stricken with passengers infected with the coronavirus in early February. They were among the 140 Americans evacuated to Lackland Air Force Base for a second quarantine.
We found out we were going to be quarantined after we had been in Yokohama Bay for 2 nights and 1 day. And we had our temperature taken at 3:30 in the morning. So it's a little weird having somebody knock on your door in the middle of the night and come in with hazmat suits on. And really, we can imagine almost anything happening outside the door. The crew of the Diamond Princess could have been out there partying for all we knew, or they could have been dying. I mean, really, they could. What if we're left alone and there's no food and we have to scavenge for food, and you know, all those horrible things that you think could happen. I mean, we did have a few nights where we woke up and we're saying, you know, God, this is really weird. I mean, things could really escalate if this gets worse. The time we were the most afraid and felt the most vulnerable and felt the most that we would get sick was when we were on the plane to the United States.
It was packed. It was like you were cattle in a truck being shipped off to the slaughterhouse.
Gosh, that's how it felt in retrospect. When we discovered about 10 hours into the flight that there were people, that we had been walking past this plastic
shower curtains, I'd
yeah,
say.
like sheeting, but it was higher than shower curtain height. And I just thought there was equipment in it or something that they wanted us to stay away from. But then I realized, seeing through a slit in the plastic, that there were people in there. And we discovered that that was where the people who were had been discovered before we left, that they were had coronavirus. They were isolated in this area that we had been walking past. We later saw people walking in and out and going to the bathroom because they obviously had no bathroom in there. And our food was right next to that area. There weren't stewardesses to feed us, so everybody was helping themselves to the food and the blankets and hand sanitizer and all that. So really there was a lot of touching going on in that area of food and that. So we didn't feel very safe on the plane. Not very safe at all. So it really felt like open mouth insert germs, but you know, you didn't know what else to do.
What happened is, as we disembarked, they said those people, and there were 11 of them, I believe, had to stay on the airplane. And these are the ones that had COVID-19. One of the men came over and asked me, "How do you feel?" I said, "I feel like it was awful. This was probably the worst thing that ever happened to me." Washed my face off. I noticed he watched me. "Dump your papers over here." He would tell me, you know, the tissues to wipe your face off. I looked afterwards and they would wrap them all up. And that was the first time I saw that they were wrapped up in hazmat bags, saying that this was, you know, what's the correct...
hazardous waste.
Hazardous waste. Mm. It was almost like we were leopards.
Yeah.
You know, nobody wanted to say anything, stay 10 feet away from us.
When we were going to get out of quarantine, there was a person who had tested negative for the coronavirus in 2 consecutive tests that then tested slightly positive, was what we were told. The CDC could not guarantee that they would not be picked up and quarantined by Texas. So we decided to stay. Really, we wanted to get out of there as soon as possible, but we decided to stay the night because there's more power in numbers. We had the CDC behind us, fighting for us, saying that we needed to go home. that was a tough decision to make also, because my instincts were saying, run, get out of here while you can.
It was interesting when we were in the airport because we could recognize our fellow passengers, and we would go around and say to them, "Do you recognize us?"
The people that we had seen on the base, and you didn't ever see their whole faces. So it was really kind of fun and interesting to talk to a few people at the airport. But when they gave us our papers, they said, you are free from quarantine, you've had your last check, you could take off your masks, you don't need them anymore. And they shook our hands and took their masks off. And it was very, very wonderful to see their faces, really for the first time in all that time. Mm-hmm.
I think walking in the door was probably one of the greatest joys I could say. It's like I described it as like a weight came off of you, when you're here, you're going to be safe. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to question you. That was, I think, one of the nicest, refreshing things that happened. Mm-hmm.